And here we go. All right, guys. Let's terminate Juice. Another Juice opinions. And if anybody was watching this live, I started about 15 minutes late. I got a few things to talk about. I'm gonna give I got some insight into where I'm feeling about Super Mario Odyssey. We're gonna talk about the idea of the Switch's first year lineup being the best all time, and then where you see hate coming from, towards that from a side I didn't really expect. I'm going to discuss a list of photos somebody put together of the GameCube's first year and pretty much destroy that. And then we're going to talk about the faux or fake physical games coming from third parties on the Nintendo Switch. So first we're going to start talking Super Mario Odyssey. On the Juice opinion, or Juice's loose, talk about how great the game is, but I see a lot of people kind of rating it, best game all time or best Mario game, this and that. So I'm going to kind of discuss my take on, at this point, I just beat the story. And for those of you that have beaten it, then the Kingdom right after, very nostalgic feeling playing that Kingdom, and then starting the post-game stuff. And then I heard there's even another post-game thing after that. I'm guessing like 3D World is just going to get harder and harder. So Super Mario Odyssey, I'm just going to say it right now, it's probably tied for 4th on my list of 3D Mario games with Super Mario Galaxy at this point. Now, I don't know how extreme this post-game content's going to go, but it's weird because it's a great game, and you say, well, it's 4th, maybe even 5th. You're like, oh, that's, you must not like it. No, it's not true, but I do love the exploration, and it's fun. Controlling Mario is great. It's equal to any other 3D Mario game except for like Sunshine, I think. And 64 obviously doesn't feel as good as it did, but the controls are just bliss. And it looks great. The music's good. It's not, in my opinion, it's not up near the top for games. And the problem I'm having with the game is thinking about ever replaying it. A lot of these moons, and I don't know what the percentage is, it might be 70, 80%, it might be 60%, I don't know. A high percentage of these moons, getting them again on a second playthrough is just going to that spot, where it's at, ground pounding or jumping up, going to the back of this one area. There's really no challenge to a majority of these moons. While it's fun to explore and find these hidden things the first time, on a second playthrough, that's gone. And now it's just getting them. Now it's just a chore to me. So, while that's awesome on the first time, I'm thinking, when I'm kind of rating this game, I'm thinking about it's the replay value. So talking about music, I'm going to unpause something real quick. I mean, you just can't beat this. This is Super Mario 3D World. This is the second Bowser world. This game was just filled from top to bottom with catchy tracks, memorable tracks, and just the main theme. When you beat the game, like that end credits music, like it's great on Odyssey to hear the main theme of the game, but 3D World and Galaxy 1 and 2 definitely all-time greats for music in a Mario game. And then getting back to the whole replay value thing of Odyssey, there are a small percentage of moons that are skill-based, where you're set in, you go into like a challenge room. Sorry, I'm gonna close out this. You go into a challenge room, and then you have basically your more standard 3D Mario level, where you have to either get to the top, there's platforms rotating or moving in and out, and that, it's a challenge to get to the end of that. And that's what I've always liked, is a challenging level where it's skill, and you might die 10 times, you might die 15, 20 times before you get to the end. But that's what I've always enjoyed the most, is getting over that difficult, frustrating at times level, and then the joy of getting to the end is just second to none. And that's just what I prefer. Now, if you love, you know, the more not casual, but just the more free form, I'm going to explore and find all these secrets type of game, then obviously Odyssey is going to be the best of the best, because it's the only one really like that out of the 3D Mario games. So just for anybody wondering, Galaxy 2 number 1, 3D World number 2, Mario 64. Now, you know, is that 3? It might be 3. It's kind of hard with nostalgia to really place that, but its impact, definitely 3. Galaxy 1 would be 4, with Odyssey probably tied with that. And then Sunshine and at last, and 3D Land would be like 6. So I just prefer the more challenging level design. 3D World was really my cup of tea. The later stages of Galaxy 1 were challenging. And Galaxy 2 I just thought was a better structure, just the way the levels were laid out. You had your little mini hub world with the ship, and then you had just your levels you would go to. You didn't have to mess with feeding the dude to get the purple stupid comet to change. You know, a lot of that hub world exploration to me is just tedious by the end of Galaxy 1. Even Mario 64, like, didn't know any better at the time. But I just like Galaxy 2's just like, hey, go to the next level. And it's just a really cool level. You know, each time it was unique, had lots of new ideas from even over Galaxy 1. So while Odyssey is a great game, it's definitely not the best game of all time. It's not the best game this year, and it's not even in my top 3 for 3D Mario games at this point. Now, if I get to, I've already done, you know, slight spoiler, there's some boss challenges post game that you can access. I just kind of randomly found a couple of them, and they're a more challenging version of boss fights you've already had. And I did like those. And then there were some other challenge rooms that were providing quite a challenge. Kind of like, imagine Sunshine if you haven't got that far in this game. Like, you lose the flood in Sunshine, but then, you know, the levels where there's rotating blocks. Not all the time you lost the flood, but you know, that kind of stuff. And then 3D World, some people didn't like, well, there's a timer and it's just a flagpole, and you got rid of, you know, it's not a true 3D Mario game. And we had a debate, I think it was Twilight Bites. And it's like, it's a 3D Mario game, but they tried to incorporate some of the classic elements from a 2D game and make it multiplayer. But I only played it, I think, one time multiplayer. The rest of the time it was just true bliss of level design and challenge, especially once you beat the game. Even the 2 Bowser worlds were really challenging, but everything after that was just like super hard, and just, that's what I like. So Odyssey is great. Probably if you just talk about first time playthrough, Odyssey would definitely be in my top 3. But when you're talking about replay value, the thought of going back and yeah, the story stuff's cool, and some of the levels are really cool, but the finding the moons for on a second playthrough, to me, is just sounds completely tedious and something I don't want to do, which sucks. The thought of not wanting to start over and play a 3D Mario game over, because it's just about finding things, and once you know where they're at, and yeah, you're gonna forget where some were and stuff. It's just it loses its, like, the magic is gone on the second playthrough. Same thing with Korok Seeds and Breath of the Wild. I find myself not getting distracted to go, hey, that's probably a Korok Seed. Once I got enough to upgrade where I wanted to upgrade my slots, I don't look for Korok Seeds anymore on my second playthrough of Zelda. And I think the moons is just going to be, you know, I've already explored this world top to bottom on Odyssey. I've already discovered all the little awesome things. And on a second playthrough, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be significantly less. And that one playthrough, maybe I won't play through it again. That one playthrough, once I get done, absolutely done with it, it'll be so awesome, that one playthrough, that maybe I'll rank it up higher. So, you know, at this point, for anyone that just joined, you know, Odyssey's tied for 4th on my 3D Mario list. And that's not even including, you know, 2D Mario games in the mix, which I think Super Mario World and maybe Super Mario Brothers 3 might be even ahead. So great game, and I'm loving it. And I'm just hoping I've heard there's some more challenging, like a boss run where you get one shot to like beat multiple bosses. Stuff like that is really appealing to me. So like I said, once I get done with it all the way through, it might be 1, 2, 3, it might be higher. So but I have been playing it nonstop. It's the first time ever I've beaten a 3D Mario game as far as the main story, beating it, getting the end credits. It's the first time I've ever done it in less than like 3 weeks to a month. Like usually like 3D World, I was like, all right, I'm in World 2. I'll play half of that and then I'll play it again. I'll play some more the next day. And then I turn it on the next day. I was like, all right, I'll finish this. I'll get to the boss fight or whatever, and I'll save that for the next, whereas Odyssey, it's just like, all right, I'm just going to explore, and I got distracted here. And it's kind of like Zelda. You get distracted. You see things. Oh, there's a challenge room here. Okay, I'm going to do that. Oh, I found a seed, so I might as well go plant that. Now I'm going to wait for the seed to grow, so I might as well go look some more. So I get lost doing things like that. And again, it's a great experience. And but just playing it again on a second playthrough, I just think it's going to lose so much of what makes it great that it's fun still just to mess around with Mario and see where you can get, see what kind of jumps you can make, even in just the main areas, just for my own enjoyment. I want to say, I'll see if I can get up there, stuff like that. And then pulling off, like almost dying, and then finding a way to do the dive and throw your cap and jump off that and get back to safety. Moments like that are great. The highlights, most of the people here seem to have played the game pretty far. The New Donk City Festival moment was amazing. I played it again, and that's where I kind of got this idea that a second playthrough is not going to be as great, because replaying that festival again, and just it wasn't the same. It was like, yeah, this was awesome. Like one of the highs I've had gaming this year was that moment. But replaying it, it's really just a pretty simple little section, and it's just having experienced it the first time is what made it great. So, and then Active Sin said in the secret worlds are tough. Are you talking about 3D World or Odyssey? Because if there's really tough secret worlds in Odyssey, then obviously I have something to look forward to. And again, the next time I do a Juice Opinions, this game could be moved up a slot or two on my list. So, but anyway, the next thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to do a little screen share thing here. Let me, give me a second here. All right. It's a little hard to do when I got to take over my screen and then I can't see what I'm doing. All right, so do this. And let me open the chat so that I can make sure you guys can see the screen. All right, so can you guys see the list of games on the screen? The GameCube games? Somebody just say yes or no, please, as quickly as possible, so I can continue. All right. So on Twitter, and I'm glad Rob's here because he retweeted this, the only reason I've seen it. You got a lot of skeptics, you got a lot of people doubting the Switch and its first year lineup. So somebody put together this little photo and said, Switch best first year ever? I don't think so. GameCube could never be topped. So I looked at this and my first thought was, really? All those games made it out in the first year? Wow. I was like, damn, that is impressive. And then my second thought is, as I started looking down at the bottom row, like, really? Mario Party, 2 Tony Hawk games, a Sonic collection? Like, this dude's really, really reaching. Monkey Ball 1 and 2, like, you couldn't just say 2 because 2 took everything that was good about 1 and made it better. So then I started looking a little deeper. And a lot of these games did not come out in the first year. They came out in the first year and a half. So, and it's like, why would someone take the time to make this list to try to prove the Switch doesn't have the best first year for a Nintendo system? Put a bunch of filler here on the bottom, and B, put games that didn't even come out in the first year. So I didn't look at every one, but I'm going to start eliminating the ones that didn't come out within the first year. The GameCube came out in September 2001, September 14th. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to eliminate a couple games that for sure didn't come out in the first year. And then we'll see how this list looks. And all right, and I forgot to check on, there's one, Soul Calibur 2, I forgot to check the release date, and Star Fox, I'm not sure about that one. Let me check something. But anyway, let's just say these four, we'll just take rid of these four right there. And what happens with this list? It's almost cut in half on its quality, in my opinion, because some of the best games are gone. So Melee, unquestioned, that was a great game. That's the rest of these. You're gonna say that having two Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, which 2 was the pinnacle, and for me personally, ever since 2, those games have just been repetitive, boring, and I stopped playing them after 2. So you got a Mario Party game, come on. So to me, this doesn't speak to the quality of the first year. We'll say 4 doesn't. 3 was better. And come on, a Sonic collection when we have Mania and Forces this year. So here's, in my opinion, like games that are worthy of being on this list. Obviously, this is all subjective, but so because Smash Brothers is renowned, obviously. So you got Luigi's Mansion and Sunshine. You know, compare that to Odyssey. You got Pikmin, which was cool. Rogue Leader, definitely a great game. Wave Race, come on. You know, that didn't even live up to the first one. Monkey Ball 1 and 2 were great little mini game things. Animal Crossing, I don't even know if that came out in the first year. Sonic Adventures 2, again, you got Sonic Forces and Sonic Mania. Eternal Darkness, it was a good game. I didn't look at the release date of that one. Star Fox Adventures, a Zelda clone. I mean, some decent games, but we're talking about Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, ARMS, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Those are just like the heavy of the heavy hitters, and you got like obviously with Doom coming out, Skyrim, LA Noire, whether or not that's good, plus some current sports games, and then the indie games to me is just like takes it over the edge. So all right, I'm done with this. Let me stop the screen share. And it's like somebody took the time to put that list together to try to just say, you know, no way the Switch has the best year lineup. Prime was the first year, dude. November. The GameCube came out September 2001. So September 2002 is the first year. I don't know why that's so hard for people. Like that's like 15 months into the system. Wind Waker was like a year and a half. That's not the first year. If you want to say the first year and a half, then GameCube came out in September as far as last thing I looked up. Let's look. I remember it wasn't cold out because I was in. Oh, September was Japan. All right, that's my bad. So it was November 2001 in the U.S. All right, I didn't type in U.S. release date. Okay, so Prime, that was first year, so that does change things. Wind Waker's still not there. I think Resident Evil 0 might also be there. Okay, so if Prime's there in the first year, then that changes things. Still, is it still better than the Switch? Is first year? Well, we have yet to see what March 3rd, 2018, what games are going to come out since then. But with Prime in there, that definitely evens it a little bit more for me. Still think overall the Switch is going to have a better first year. Yeah, and then it freaking Europe got the GameCube at an even different time. It was a weird time for Nintendo where where they would release the systems staggered. Like I forgot that even happened. So You know, that's in this day and age, we get global releases for the most part, so it's like crazy. But all right, Metroid Prime definitely a strong first year. For me, Sunshine, it's my least favorite 3D Mario game. It's the worst 3D Mario game. It's not even I would barely give it an 8, maybe a 7.5. That's just me. Um, so, you know, Wind Waker, even if that had come out in its launch state, I never thought Wind Waker was top tier. The HD version showed what that game could have and should have been, with the improved sailing and, you know, take away basically everything that was frustrating about Wind Waker. They took away, but you know, the GameCube. It does point out one thing though. I had not realized that many of the GameCube's top games had come out even in the first 15 months, even if you count some of the ones that came out like a year, just under a year and a half later, the first 15 to 18 months. I did not remember all those games making it out. I mean, other than Resident Evil 4, and obviously Metroid Prime 2 came out 2 years after that, but most of their heavy hitters on the GameCube came out in that first year and a half, which is interesting. And then after that, it was mostly third party. Kind of, you know, we had pretty equal third party support since the GameCube was really easy to develop for. It was the middle as far as power. It was ahead of the PS2 and just below the Xbox. So it was getting a lot of those games like the Prince of Persia's, the Medal of Honors, stuff like that. I wasn't interested in a lot of those even then. I was never that high on third-party games, and that's why the GameCube's kind of low on my list. I forgot exactly where I put it, like 5th or 6th on my list of Nintendo consoles, because it was such a third-party, you know, focused system for the majority of its lineup. And then the first-party, like main titles like Mario Sunshine was a letdown. Wind Waker didn't live up. You know, it sucks they had to rush that. They felt they needed to rush that and cut those dungeons out and add that stupid Triforce search, you know, with the changing the wind, constantly having to do that stupid song every time you want to change the wind, you know, stuff like that held those games back. And that's probably your two top franchises. And they both were rushed out. Sunshine, they took out Worlds and threw in those blue coin challenges. You know, so for me, I always remember it for those things. Eternal Darkness was a cool story, but playing it, you know, it wasn't the most tight controls, and the combat system wasn't amazing. It was good, but it wasn't amazing. So it was like Resident Evil 4, Metroid Prime, and like I always tell the story, Smash Brothers. I didn't know anybody else that had a GameCube, so Smash Brothers for me was a single player game. And just judging it on that, it didn't do much for me. Years later, I love Smash for its online multiplayer. And, you know, if I had a group of buddies to sit down and play Smash 4-player on the same screen back when it came out, I'm guessing Smash Brothers would have been that game for me. But other than Metroid Prime 2 was good. I'll be honest, I only played through it that one time, and I never restarted it. I found the early goings a little frustrating, and I just always hated the you know, shifting, like the phase on stuff. Like that's what Metroid Prime 3 did that too, but it did it. The rest of the game I felt was a little more was a little better structured than 2. But those two games and Resident Evil 4 are pretty much the highlights for GameCube total for me. Like, you know, Rogue Leader was fun. I played you know, you had your Maddens, you had your Burnouts, you had your NFL 2K3 or whatever. You know, you had some good third-party games in there. But for me, the highlights were basically 3 games. So that's why I always kind of hold the GameCube lower than most people. But also, it's why I was shocked to see that all these games had come out. Why didn't it do better with all their heavy hitters basically coming out in the first year and a half? It's crazy to think. But anyway, it's just funny that, you know, the fact that Metroid Prime, it was, I was wrong about that, but the other games, Wind Waker, Phantasy Star, and those games definitely came out after a year. And then including Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Mario Party 4, a old school Sonic collection as like proof and as an argument against having it be better than the Switch, like, come on, you're stretching. You're stretching. You know, just looking at the quality indie games, forgetting the major, like the Dooms and the Skyrims and the, well, I guess Rocket League is technically started as an indie game. It's such a big game now that it's hard to think of it as an indie game. But to think Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Splatoon 2, ARMS, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario plus Rabbids was a really great game. Pokken Tournament, people seem to like that. And then you got SteamWorld Dig 2, it's in my top 5 games of the year right now. You know, Snake Pass was great. What's Stardew Valley? People love that. Golf Story, people loving that. Got Axiom Verge. You know, it's just the indie games are just ridiculous. And there's some I really want, and I just don't have time to play them right now. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think that's going to be an amazing experience. We're not going to do our game of the year for the Switch until like end of January, just to give people time to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to its fullest before, you know, maybe mid-January we'll probably do our game of the year podcast. Yeah, Fast RMX, you know, all great things. And yeah, the indie games didn't exist on the GameCube, but doesn't mean you can't count them in the Switch's favor, because whereas the GameCube had, you know, a lot of major third-party multi-plats, it's crazy to think even back then those didn't interest me. It's not like I'm just suddenly, because of the Wii U and stuff, I think some people might assume that that's where my lack of love for third parties come from, but it goes back to the N64, even the Super NES. When people give their top games of the Super NES, a lot of people give third-party games. Mine are all first-party. There's not even a third-party game on my maybe top 10 Super NES games. I was just that guy back then, and I still am today. I just never really cared about multi-plats. Now, third-party exclusives are different. You know, to me, that a system's got a game that no other system has. That's just, you know, benefits the system, you know, that lineup even more than, let's say, having Resident Evil 4. It was exclusive for a year, then the PlayStation 2 got it, and then now it's on everything. It kind of diminishes slightly. Resident Evil 4, when you look back at history, at the time it was great. Hey, we got Resident Evil 4. That's one of the best games ever made. It's on the GameCube. You know, what do you got, Xbox? What do you got, Sony? And then Sony gets it a year later. But anyway, it's just, you know, this was not really where I was taking this conversation, but it is interesting to kind of think back and realize now, kind of live on air, that I've never really been into third-party games like that. And, you know, I don't know why. It's just, I think it's because Nintendo spoils me with just amazing quality controls and, you know, games that work and lots of content and replay value usually. And I'm more of a gameplay guy over story, and I think I'll always be that. I think I said this about Uncharted 4. Like, if they can take that's, you know, their storytelling, and they could just take 10-15% of their energy and apply that to improving the overall gameplay, and I think it could be a top tier, you know, franchise. I wish they would. I wish they put 30% more energy towards gameplay in those games, but, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, let's talk about these physical third-party games on the Switch. And I'm just going to say right now, I am not buying a single game where the cartridge is only a download key, and if I have to download, especially if it's an amount that requires an SD card. So plain and simple, number one, if I am required to have an SD card for a physical Switch game, I'm not buying it, period. End of story. I don't know if years later, when SD cards are cheap and that game's $10 or something, maybe. But as it stands right now, I won't buy it. The only argument you can make for buying the physical version over the digital version is you could trade that shit in. That's the only reason I would even consider getting one of these games is, hey, I can get it with my Best Buy discount and like my $5 off coupon. Then I could play it and I can trade that in to Best Buy and get that, you get additional trade-in value. That's the only reason I would even consider the physical. I would only buy it digitally if I'm going to buy it. That's what I'm saying. I'm the physical version, not buying it if I have to download like a huge amount of data, especially when the entire game size is under 32 gigs. So guess what, LA Noir? You're gonna charge $10 extra and not put it on a 32 gig card. Everybody on the podcast assumed that $10 extra was going to be so they could get the higher cart size and fit the game on there. But guess what? Let me give that again. Fuck you. You're going to go cheap. You're going to charge $10 more and go with the 16 gig card and then ask me to download 14 gigabytes, not just to play a portion of the game, to be able to play the game at all. Yeah, that'll fit on the internal memory. I have 19 gigs available. But guess what? Fuck you again. $10 more. We put extra time in the Switch version. Well, you put extra time in the PS4, Xbox One, having 4K textures and fully, basically remastering the game. But you're going to charge $10 extra and ask us to go out and buy an SD card to fit the rest of your game. No, sorry. That game was at the top of my list. If you listened to the podcast last week, I wanted to buy some of these third-party games to support them. Now Doom, that's different because the entire single-player game, which is the most appealing part of the game, is on the cartridge. So, like T always says, there's nuance. It's not just cut and dry. Now the multiplayer, I might want that 9 gigs, but that'll easily fit on my internal memory. And then when the multiplayer community goes away, I can delete that and not worry about it and still always have, have the main game on the cartridge. Now, while I'm not buying Doom because I already have it on PC and I don't think it's going to play at all comfortably in portable mode just because of the twitch nature and the analog stick hovering over those buttons on the right Joy-Con, I just don't think it's going to be enjoyable in portable mode. Why would I want a super inferior version to play on my TV, So, but I would support it based on the way they decided to handle single players on the cartridge, and then you can download the multiplayer. Now, I don't know what LA Noir, I don't know what their thought process was. The game's 29 gigs. There's 32 gig carts out there. We know this. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 in Japan use a 32 gig card. Maybe that Nintendo's asking $20 for that card. I don't know. But what's the $10 increase for? Is the 16 gig card $10 more than the 8 gig card? If it is, I guess everyone else is eating it because there's a lot of games that are 13, 14 gigs out there, and they're not charging us $10 extra. Sonic Forces, I don't know the file size. I know it's over 6. I don't know the exact number. They're not charging $10 more on Switch. So it's just interesting or curious why LA Noir is $10 more. So WWE, are you kidding me? You buy the physical version, you got to download 24 gigs. Yeah, 2K, you can eat a dick. I hate what you did with NBA 2K, and I really hate what you did with WWE. And delay the physical version for no reason so that you can download 24 gigs. So let's say you're one of those people, it's, on PS4, it's a 50 gig game, and on the Switch, it's only 29, so it's better. That 50 gigs fits easily on my PS4. Even I have 8 games on there, and 50 gigs still easily fits on my PS4 because I have between 250 and 280 gigs, I believe. Maybe it's 230 and 250. I don't know, somewhere around there, middle 200s. You can't even put WWE 2K or NBA, LA Noir, you technically could. You can't even put it on a day one Switch with no other games. That's the difference. I don't understand why people don't see that as being a different. Well, on PS4, your physical versions aren't physical. But guess what? The whole game's on the disc. The ones I buy, if it isn't, this applies to everything. If I had an Xbox One, I'm not buying Forza Horizon or Forza 7 or whatever. That's 100 gigs when the Blu-ray only holds 50. Like, I'm not doing that. It just applies to everything, but I'm mainly playing on Switch, so that's why I'm talking about that. So let's say you have an SD card. Let's say you spent $45 and you bought a 128 gig SD card. And so, okay, I'm going to buy Doom. I want to play the multiplayer, 9 gig download. Yeah, NBA 2K, that's great. With the current update, even with the physical version, 26 gig download. So now you're at 35 gigs. I want LA Noire, a 14 gig download. Now you're at, what did I say? I'm losing track of my math here. 35, 14, 49. Oh, WWE, I love wrestling games. Oh, 24 gig. You know, should have wrote this down, but now you're at like 70 gigs out of your 128 with 3 games. And that's the physical versions. That's what I have a problem with this. I would honestly, I would have paid $10 extra for LA Noire and not even batted an eye if the whole game was on the cartridge and they're like, yep, we're using a 32 gig cartridge, so you don't have to, download anything. Boom, that's worth $10 to me. Now, maybe it isn't to you. Maybe you'd rather spend $40, $45 on 128 gig. But then you also have the whole principle of, well, that cartridge you have doesn't have the game on it. What happens years down the road? Where's the value of that cartridge anymore? If you can't play LA Noire without a 14 gig download, your micro SD card takes a crap 10 years down the road. Are you going to be able to download the rest of that game and play it? For you retro guys? I don't think so. And Active Sin, that's fine. You'd rather spend $10 or you'd rather buy a memory card. But again, it's why even buy the physical version if the game's not on it? The whole game's not on it and I can't play it years down the road. There's no reason for me to even buy the physical version other than the Best Buy discount. I'd rather pay $10 more and have the actual game and have it all on the system. That's just me. Everybody's different. PS4, Xbox One, those discs, you don't play off the disc. It has to install. A lot of people say you have to download. No, it installs off the disc. Now, if some crazy thing down the road, the PS4 no longer will install a game if you have to reformat it or something, or it's just broken without a patch. Obviously, that's not going to work either. I just don't like that whole idea. I don't like anything that's happening with games this generation. Now, again, if I wanted to go digital, I don't mind buying an SD card. I didn't mind buying a external hard drive for my Wii U because I wanted to go digital. It kind of changed my mind halfway through the generation and went physical after that. But yeah, and the 20% discount from Best Buy is really the only reason I would still buy physical. It's just to save money on a game and then I can trade it in. But the principle of it, if I got to download 14 gigs, I might as well download 29 gigs if I got an SD card, because what's that cartridge worth to me with half the game on it? Nothing. Yeah. If it was a game I thought I really wanted to keep, it's just it doesn't sit well with me. And maybe a year from now, the 32 gig cards will be cheap enough where it'll be like, all right, 32 gig cards. But then these developers are going to put, oh, we don't have to shrink our game as much. We'll put 30 gigs on the cartridge, and then they got to download 10 gigs. It's just going to keep happening, and it sucks because I really wanted to support at least one of these third-party publishers, and I still might. I might buy Skyrim just because it's the only one that doesn't require additional downloads, especially if it's requiring an SD card, having the physical version. Doom, when the price drops, I might pick that up, but Wolfenstein 2, I'm going to tell you right now, I'd be shocked if the entire game's on a cartridge. And it's up to you to decide. But for me personally, I'm not buying fake physical Switch games. I'm just not going to do it. I was excited about cartridges because I was like, we don't have to install. Loading time should be shorter and stuff. But now we got downloads to deal with. Yeah, Nintendo probably at this point, if they're not thinking about it, they should be planning to include a SD card in Switch in the future. Now, if a 128 gigs Samsung 100 megabyte per second, cost us $44.99 on Amazon. You would think Nintendo, if they bought in bulk, could cut that in half, maybe even more. Maybe not go with the hunt. You don't really only need like a 60 to 80 megabyte per second card. Digital Foundry proved there's no improvement when you go with the faster card. So Nintendo, you don't need to do a price drop on the Switch. The next thing they should do is have a Switch with included 128 gig SD card. Don't go with 64, because that's going to get you 2-3 games. Don't even bother. Have the Switch, some point early next year, mid next year. I think they need to step up to the plate. They created the problem. Third-party publishers being cheap and not wanting to charge more for their games and being worried that gamers won't buy them if they charge more. It's a combination of things. Nintendo's got to be the one that's going to have to solve this, either charge less for the 32 gig card or include an SD card, and I think that eliminates the problem. Now, I've already bought my Switch. Obviously, it didn't come with an SD card, but I think in the future, this problem isn't going to go away, and they need to be out in the forefront and charge, I don't know, $315 for a Switch, comes with a 128 gig SD card. I think that would be a good step for Nintendo to take, and then for any future Switch owners, go out and buy a Switch. They want to buy a third-party game. They don't have to go out and spend an additional 40 plus, because if you look at the 200 to 256 gig cards, you're getting in the 100, 150 range, and it's just like, no thanks. So it sucks. That's why, really, my decision came down to, I'm buying Rocket League. I'm buying probably Axiom Verge. That's a small game. What was the other one? Skyrim. I'm probably going to buy Skyrim if the whole game's on the cartridge, but Rocket League's going to be my big third-party game. I didn't upload my E3 reaction video, and I was thinking about editing the clip when they showed Rocket League in my live reaction after they said everything they're planning on doing. I said, that's how you bring a third-party game to a Nintendo system, and that's how you get people to buy it. We're bringing you the most up-to-date version with all the content, all the previous versions, and exclusive Nintendo cards. I said it then. No one saw it, but me. I never uploaded it, but they did the right thing. I like their Nintendo Minute little walkthrough of Psionic, and I'm definitely buying Rocket League, and then possibly Skyrim. And I seem like I'm forgetting. Oh, Rive. They just announced Rive finally. That was promised on the Wii U like in 2014 or 2015. That's finally coming to the Switch, November. Again, another November game. I think it's 17th. Another indie game, looks great. And then it's going to be pretty much first-party games until something changes here. So it sucks. I'm not happy about it. I'm not mad at somebody if they want to go out and buy an SD card and then they want to buy these physical games that require huge downloads. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not judging you. Just for me personally, and I'll Retro Death in the chat here, he agrees with me. If I'm going to buy a physical game, I want the physical game. If I really want to play, let's say I really wanted to play LA Noire, at this point, I'd probably just if I had to buy an SD card, I'm just going to download the whole game digitally. If it was something I absolutely knew I'd love and wanted, I would just buy it digital. To me, there's no reason to have the cartridge at that point. So, but anyway, I see people telling me, what games they're getting. And, another thing, we don't have to buy all these games. There's a lot of games in November. You just don't have to buy them all in November. Yeah, if you really want to support Bethesda and you want to let them know, hey, I want more games, if you feel that way, go out and buy them full price. For me, Doom's going to have to be, unless people rave about the multiplayer and the Switch multiplayer community is like thriving and everybody's playing it, I can't see myself buying Doom over $40 on the Switch. That's $40 before my Best Buy 20% off and probably another $5 coupon by the time that price hits that low. So that's basically getting the game for like $27 or something after tax. somewhere around there. It's 32, yeah, 28, 27, 28 bucks. I can do that. And then the 9 gigs will easily fit on my internal memory, play some multiplayer, you know, and probably play through the single player again. But it's the hard thing about Skyrim is it comes out 2 weeks before Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it's like it's a rough thought, or not a great thought, thinking about those 2 games having them around the same time, you know, how much time you got to put in each one. So I do agree that Skyrim is looking pretty good on the direct feed footage we've seen lately of the Switch version. It's looking really sharp, clean. You know, it doesn't have the amazing lighting, atmospheric stuff as the PS4 and PC versions and stuff, but it's a clean looking game. And you know, I do like what Bethesda's doing. And I just wish I wish somebody, one of these companies, would step up to the plate and just put it on that 32 gig card and see what happens. You know, I'd like to I would support, like, if I don't know if it's $10 more, I don't know if it'd be $15 more, but if somebody stepped up to the plate, let's say Wolfenstein 2, and they said, yep, it's all on one card, it's all on the card, you know, $69.99. Yeah, that would be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. But again, Best Buy discount, that you get even more savings. That's $14 off instead of 12. So it's just one of those things where it probably wouldn't work. Most people would probably be pissed about the price, but think about third-party games as they drop in price quickly, and that $79.99 or $69.99, I mean, isn't going to last for very long, you know? So it's just one of those things. But anyway, that's going to be it for this Juice Opinions. I'm going to play some Super Mario 3D World. I got a little taste of it for the podcast before I started this live stream, and now I just want to play more. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'm going to have to spend a little more time pondering that GameCube first lineup now that I was completely wrong about the release date. But yeah, feel free to leave me comments below, and just play whatever game you got on your table right now. Play it, have fun, and we'll see you next time.